The conference room door had just closed, and I was still holding the certificate with Nathan Cooper's name, the intern I had trained for 4 months. My signature wasn't even dry. On the table, the coffee I hadn't touched had gone cold. "We're forced to downsize due to financial adjustments," Marcus Stone said, his tone flat as he leaned back into his expensive black leather chair. "Thanks for everything, old-timer." I froze, mind blank. Just 3 minutes ago, he'd shaken my hand to congratulate me for bringing Nathan up to speed on the Emerald Bay project, a beachfront development worth $32 million in California. Now, a cold nod and a farewell joke? I had spent 30 years in urban planning, the last 7 at Hudson Design Group, where I managed the permitting process for large-scale developments. And now he tossed me aside under the excuse of financial restructuring? "You're kidding, right?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Not at all. Today's your last day. HR has prepared your final check, 2 weeks of pay." 2 weeks, 7 years of dedication, never missing a single deadline or document. 2 weeks. Marcus glanced at his phone and stood up, signaling I should leave. "Nathan will be taking over your role on upcoming projects. He's learned a lot from you." Nathan Cooper, 25, fresh out of college, ran a TikTok account with nearly 500,000 followers. He had never handled a residential zoning map, never worked directly with a city department, never negotiated building height variances in a historic district. I let out a dry laugh, trying to stay composed. "No handoff? Emerald Bay still has 5 pending permits." "No need," Marcus replied, still glued to his screen. "You've done a great job training him." In truth, I'd been used. They needed me to train my replacement. Now they were discarding me like an outdated device. I turned and walked out, every step heavier than the last. In the hallway, Nathan stood holding a coffee, pretending to be surprised. "Oh, I didn't know it was today." I didn't respond. His eyes couldn't hide the excitement behind the polite mask. He must have known. Maybe he was the one whispering things like, "He's a bit slow," or "We need someone more agile," into Marcus's ear. I headed to the parking lot, gripping the box with my personal items, my son's photo, a few pens, and a copy of the lease for a private company I started 5 years ago, an exit strategy in case my main job ever collapsed. I didn't cry, but when I sat in my car and shut the door, betrayal choked me. People don't need to throw stones to break you. A few empty phrases from a scripted conversation can close every door in your face. My name is Daniel Carter, 60 years old, once known by name in city planning departments across California, now unemployed. Replaced by a kid who uses face filters in Zoom meetings. What they forgot, not a single permit for Emerald Bay could be approved without the signature from the firm I run, a legally registered entity entirely separate from Hudson Design, officially recognized by the city for fast-track permitting. Driving away from Hudson's parking lot, I couldn't shake the image of Marcus casually discarding me like expired inventory. I pulled over at a small cafe on Valencia Street, the same one where I once sat with Nathan for hours, explaining the tangled layers of community zoning, the tricks to avoid bottlenecks in plan review. Looking back, it was all just a launch pad for him to climb into the seat I once held. Nathan Cooper, 25, sharp-looking, well-mannered, but the way he glanced at Marcus in meetings, the buzzwords he kept dropping: system upgrade, process optimization. It hit me. He wasn't just learning the permitting process. He was learning how to replace the person who brought him in. I'd defended him. When veteran engineers grumbled about him filming office videos instead of reviewing specs, I'd brushed it off. That's just how young people are. He's absorbing things. Turns out, while I taught him how to analyze flood zone overlays, he learned how to impress the boss with things that had nothing to do with technical drawings. I once caught Marcus and Nathan having lunch alone at Flame, a place Marcus would never set foot in unless it was personal. They didn't see me. Marcus patted Nathan's back like he'd found his golden piece. Now it made sense. Those meetings weren't coincidence. They didn't need someone who'd learned that noise permits should be filed before festival season, or that a certain staffer at the planning office responds faster when you attach a handwritten note. They wanted someone young, fluent in TikTok algorithms, able to edit Zoom calls into work hard, play harder montages tagged with city life. I checked the profile of Smith and Carter Regulatory Services on my tablet. Still active, licenses valid, tax ID clean. For the past 3 years, the firm had been the city's legal intermediary on developments over $10 million. Emerald Bay was the latest and most critical. No progress without my digital signature. That night, in my small kitchen, lit by soft yellow light, I sat across from my son, Evan, a sophomore in architecture. He looked up as I explained. Then he reached out and squeezed my hand. "Do you have proof Nathan and Marcus were colluding?" "They're not dumb enough to leave evidence," I said. "But they underestimated one thing, that I'd stay quiet." I spent the entire night reviewing every document tied to Emerald Bay. Subdivision applications, environmental reports, traffic impact maps, all waiting at final stage verification from Smith and Carter. Without it, the entire package would need to be refiled, setting them back at least 6 months. Next morning, I sent a polite email to Hudson's project department. "Due to unilateral personnel changes from your side, Smith and Carter will suspend all legal responsibilities and support until a new agreement is in place." Less than 2 hours later, Marcus called. I didn't pick up. Messages poured in. "Benjamin, can we talk? We need permit confirmations urgently. Nathan's still unclear on a few procedures. He could use your help." I scanned, didn't respond. By the end of the day, an email came from Nathan himself. "Uncle Ben, I didn't know things would go this far. If there's any misunderstanding, I'd really like to hear your thoughts. This project means a lot to the whole team." I read the words Uncle Ben over and over. A soft sell, too late, too hollow. I didn't reply. Instead, I called someone from the past. Claudia Ruiz, project director at Apex Ventures, the firm funding Emerald Bay. "Benjamin Carter? I was about to call you." Her voice rang sharp. "We just got word about delays from Hudson. Sounds like they no longer have their lead." "I'm still here, Claudia, and I think we need to talk. In person." A pause. Then she replied, 10 o'clock tomorrow, my office." The game had shifted. And Marcus was about to learn that his biggest mistake wasn't letting me go. It was assuming I no longer mattered. I walked out of Hudson's office that Friday with absolute silence. No shouting, no accusations, no bitterness. Just the soft click of the elevator door closing behind me, as cold as the way I'd been replaced. But behind that silence was a slow, deliberate motion, like a counterweight being drawn upward, waiting for the exact moment to drop. That evening, I reopened my laptop, the one I hadn't used for Hudson's work in months. I had handled the Emerald Bay project thoroughly, starting back when it was just a conceptual sketch. I logged into the private archive system of Carter & Associates Regulatory, the LLC I had founded in 2019. Every document related to Emerald Bay was stored there, categorized by section, color-coded with a clear processing timeline and expiration dates. No one at Hudson had access to this system, not even Marcus. In every internal memorandum between me and the Monterey County Planning Office, the designated legal intermediary was always listed as Carter and Associates. No mention of my name, no mention of Hudson Design. I opened the emergency permitting plan for Zone A7, which bordered a protected natural area and was the key to unlocking full project approval. In the bottom corner, a line of text appeared, "Not yet signed. Status, on hold." Marcus thought terminating my employment contract was enough to remove me from the system. He forgot that, in California, no large-scale planning file is valid without verification from the city-appointed intermediary. And, in this case, that intermediary was me. The next day, I met with Emily Reynolds, an old friend who now specialized in labor and business law. We sat at an outdoor cafe in Santa Cruz, more than 80 miles from Hudson's office. No one from the old firm ever came here. I liked the distance. "Marcus assumed you're obligated to sign because you were an employee," Emily said, her voice calm as she reviewed the agreements. "But it clearly states here, any project exceeding $20 million must go through your LLC, which means Hudson is just a client. You have full authority to refuse." I nodded, sipped my espresso, eyes still fixed on the italicized clause in the city agreement. Regulatory authority granted exclusively to Carter and Associates LLC for expedited compliance review. The question is, Emily leaned in, what do you want? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I pulled out my phone and scrolled up to a message Nathan had sent the night before. I hope you're not mad. You've helped me so much. If there's anything I can do to make it right. I locked the screen. What he needed wasn't forgiveness. He needed a lesson. After the meeting, I sent a memo to Monterey's building permit office announcing that all verifications for Emerald Bay were on hold due to sudden restructuring from Hudson's side. At the same time, I scheduled a meeting with the project's main investor through Wheeler Real Estate Group, through the assistant of Mr. Grant Wheeler. Monday morning, I arrived at Wheeler's San Jose headquarters in the same black blazer I'd worn to a planning conference the year before. Grant entered the room right on time, his eyes scanning the documents I had laid out. Benjamin Carter? He raised an eyebrow, clearly recognizing my name from the reports. I heard the project's stuck in the permit stage. Hudson says it's a technical issue. It's not technical, I replied. It's a signature problem. And the person authorized to sign is sitting in front of you. I handed him a full briefing. The termination email from Hudson, the agreement between my firm and the city, and a detailed list of suspended project items awaiting proper resolution. Grant sat still for a few minutes, then he set the papers down and folded his hands. They cut you out, then expected you to help clean it up? Maybe they assumed I'd still be nice enough to sign. He smirked. What's your proposal? I'll continue handling the paperwork with the city, but as a direct partner with the investor, not through Hudson. Same consulting fee as before, with added terms ensuring I retain legal decision-making authority in future phases. He didn't say a word, just extended his hand. Verbal agreement for now. My lawyer will send you the contract this afternoon. On the way to my car, my phone buzzed. A new email from Marcus. Call me urgently. There's been a misunderstanding. We need to talk. I smiled, looking up at the ash-gray sky over the bay. No need to reply. Hudson was beginning to realize. When you sever the artery that feeds a project, don't be shocked when the system flatlines. That evening, I got a call from Janet Slater, Wheeler Group's legal counsel. Her tone was steady, but cautious. We've reviewed all legal agreements tied to Emerald Bay, she said. Mr. Wheeler wants to ensure that partnering directly with you doesn't violate any prior contracts with Hudson Design. I anticipated that. I sent her a copy of the city agreement with Carter and Associates, stating that full approval control for any project over $20 million rests with the designated legal intermediary, not the designer or the investor. My digital signature is the final condition for closure. Without it, nothing moves forward. Janet paused. Then came the sound of rapid typing. Understood. We'll prepare an updated cooperation appendix between you and Wheeler Group. Should be ready in 2 days. I hung up and opened the project folder. Every document in the system was tagged with a unique Carter and Associates ID. None were directly linked to Hudson Design, except for the early draft layouts, which required no city approval. Marcus once boasted in a meeting, design is the soul of a project. Whoever owns the blueprints controls the pivot. Perhaps he never realized that even the most stunning design is worthless without a verification stamp in the lower right corner of every page. I opened my email and sent a short notice to the Monterey City Project Development Office. Carter and Associates will temporarily halt all verification for the Emerald Bay project due to structural violations from the lead designer. Future requests will be reviewed once a new agreement is reached. Less than 2 hours later, my phone rang. The caller ID said Hudson Design Headquarters. I didn't answer. 15 minutes later, another email. Urgent, status of Emerald Bay permits. Please respond immediately to avoid project delays. I shut the laptop, grabbed my coat, and stepped outside. The night air in Santa Cruz was damp and still. From the distance came the sound of waves, a quiet reminder. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes, it's the space where your opponent walks straight into their own trap. The next morning, Harold Yates, the city's head of planning, called from a private number. Ben? What's going on with Hudson? They submitted a new verification request without any supporting documents from your firm. I've ended our collaboration. So, every permit is currently stalled? Correct. Without Carter and Associates' digital sign-off, nothing gets filed. Harold sighed. You know that's going to push this project back at least 4 months? I imagine Wheeler won't be pleased. You're wrong. Grant is livid. More than when the Ridge got rejected last year. He asked me to notify him immediately if anything changes. Then let him know this. I've agreed to resume work with Wheeler directly, not through Hudson. A pause. Then Harold chuckled. I bet Marcus is going to lose it, but I've got to say, Ben, you played this hand brilliantly. I said nothing. Didn't need to. 3 hours later, I got a text from an unknown number. Benjamin, I need to see you today. Don't let personal grudges ruin months of work. Marcus. Not long after, an email from Nathan arrived. Same gentle tone. Still calling me Uncle Ben. This time, he added, Mr. Marcus asked me to handle the paperwork with the city directly. I'm still unclear on a lot of steps, so I was hoping you could guide me. I laughed. Turns out both of them thought expertise could be replaced with titles or charm. But those little legal seals don't respond to followers or office politics. By the end of the day, the new contract from Wheeler arrived. In the appendix, one clause stood out. Carter & Associates is designated as the sole authority for handling building permits and regulatory compliance for the entire Emerald Bay project, with the right to refuse cooperation with any third party violating the procedures agreed upon with the city. There was no mention of Hudson Design, not a single word about Marcus or Nathan. I signed, inserted my digital signature, and sent a copy to Janet Slater. As I stood up to turn off the office lights, my phone rang again. The call was from Wheeler. I answered. Benjamin, he said calmly, thank you for keeping the project from falling into chaos. I just finished meeting with our legal team. If Hudson continues interfering, I'll consider terminating their contract entirely. That's your call, I replied. I can promise you one thing, not a single square foot of Emerald Bay gets legalized without my sign-off. That afternoon, I visited Miranda Clay's law office in South Market, San Francisco. An old friend from the construction field had recommended her, saying she was the kind of attorney who didn't back down from confrontation, especially when facing a company arrogant enough to expect free labor from former employees. Miranda wore a crisp white shirt, collar buttoned, sitting upright behind a walnut desk. No small talk, she got right to it. I've read through your case, including the partnership contract between your LLC and the city of Monterey. One question. Do you want a quick solution, or do you want to teach them a lesson? I want both, I answered. She nodded, opened her laptop. This one's straightforward. Carter & Associates is a separate legal entity. Hudson has no authority to demand your signature on anything without a compensation agreement. If they've submitted documents to the city without going through you, that's a breach of interagency protocol. I placed a file on the desk. Here's the list of documents currently on hold, all tied to Emerald Bay. Miranda flipped through them. I'll draft a response. We'll demand a $73,000 consulting fee. Exactly 75% of your former annual salary at Hudson, plus your name must be listed on all project documents as Regulatory Compliance Specialist, non-negotiable. You want me to send it myself, or do you handle their legal team? I want them to get it from someone they can't manipulate. She smiled. Nothing more. 2 weeks, I left her office feeling composed. The draft arrived 2 hours later. The opening line was as sharp as a blade. Carter & Associates, as the official partner of the City of Monterey for compliance verification, will not authorize any documents related to the Emerald Bay project unless a new agreement is established regarding compensation and formal role recognition. Attached was a clear breakdown of the suspended items, and the $73,000 figure was underlined in bold red. A reminder that professionalism is not free, especially not when betrayal comes from someone who once smiled while shaking your hand. I forwarded the letter to Hudson's legal team, CC'd Wheeler Group. Less than 30 minutes later, Marcus called. I ignored it. 4 missed calls, 2 texts, then an email with the subject, "We need to talk, you are adjourned." I left it unread. At 8:30 the next morning, Hudson Design's legal department sent a response. Their tone had shifted. We acknowledge Carter & Associates' request. The executive board is reviewing the contract adjustments and proposes a meeting with Mr. Carter to reach a mutual agreement regarding the Emerald Bay project. They included a draft offering $40,000 and the title Technical Advisor. Not one word about the official role I held for 7 years. I forwarded it to Miranda. 5 minutes later, she called. "They're testing your limits. I'll send the final response. If they refuse, we go directly to the investors." I nodded. Wheeler's ready to cut ties if needed. Then let Marcus decide. That afternoon, while I was having lunch at Pho Min in the Sunset District, a text popped up from an unknown number. "Mr. Carter, this is Derek Glassman, legal representative of Wheeler Group. Grant Wheeler would like to meet with you tomorrow morning to discuss long-term collaboration. Are you available?" I replied, 9 o'clock, Wheeler's office. Friday morning, I arrived on time. Grant sat behind the glass table, his expression steady. His gaze didn't waver. "Marcus has completely lost control," he said. "We can't let one partner's ego derail an entire project. If we move forward directly with Carter and Associates, can you guarantee all permitting will be handled within 8 weeks? I need full independence. My name must appear on all city communications. All fees go directly to my company. Consulting fee? $73,000 for Emerald Bay. For future Wheeler Group projects, I'll provide a package rate based on scope." Grant studied me for 5 seconds, then nodded. "Draft the contract. I'll have our legal team send it this afternoon." Before I left, he added, "I respect how you handled this. Most people stay silent. You didn't." I didn't answer, just smiled faintly, stepped out, and called Miranda. "Prepare the onboarding documents. Wheeler has officially cut Marcus out of the permitting chain." I checked my watch. Just 10 o'clock. Still early, but not for Marcus. That afternoon, while watering my white orchids on the balcony, my phone vibrated non-stop. 6 missed calls from Hudson Design, 3 texts from Marcus, 2 urgent emails from their legal team, all repeating the same panicked message. "We need your cooperation to resolve the Emerald Bay delays." I didn't reply. Instead, I checked my personal inbox and saw a subject line that made me pause. "Private meeting. Grant Wheeler." The message included his assistant's number. I called back within 10 minutes and was invited to Wheeler Group's San Francisco office the next morning. When I stepped into the conference room on the 21st floor, Grant Wheeler's eyes weren't as cold as before. He leaned back in his chair and spoke first. "Marcus has called me 5 times in under 24 hours. They're panicking." "Maybe they didn't think I'd say no," I said. "You didn't say no. You refused to be used." He set his phone down. "I need confirmation. If we cut Hudson Design from the project, will you handle the entire permitting process for Emerald Bay? My team is ready. If you're willing to sign a formal agreement with Carter and Associates, I'll begin immediately." Grant didn't hesitate. "My attorney's drafting it. You'll have it by this afternoon. Marcus thinks he holds all the cards, but he forgot the most important part of any project: trust." I left Wheeler's office without looking back. As I reached the lobby, my phone lit up with a new email. From Nathan. "Uncle Ben, I know you're upset, but this has gone too far. If you're willing to cooperate, I'll try to get you acknowledged in the project again. Just sign off, and I'll vouch for you to Marcus." A proposal that was both fragile and arrogant. I deleted it as soon as I finished reading. That evening, while I was having dinner with my son, my screen lit up with a call from an unknown number. I was about to let it ring out, but something told me to answer. "Mr. Carter," a man's voice came through, deep and firm. "I'm Noah Blake, secondary investment representative for Wheeler Group." The last name made me pause. Blake. That wasn't a coincidence. "Are you related to Nathan Cooper?" "No," he replied quickly. "But I have a cousin who works at Hudson Design. She just left the office in tears." I stayed silent. I didn't need to ask. I already knew who he was referring to. "Jenna Blake," Noah continued. "I just wanted you to know, she didn't start all this, but she got dragged in too deep, and now Hudson's pushing her out to take the fall." I said nothing. The story was shifting faster than I expected. Later that night, I received an email from Jenna herself. No embellishments, no Uncle Ben, just a few plain lines. I was wrong. I'm not qualified to handle what you used to do. I don't want this project to fall apart because I stayed silent. If there's anything I can do to help untangle this, please tell me. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just a chance to fix it. I didn't reply, not out of resentment, but because the decision was no longer hers to make. The next morning, Miranda Clay informed me that the new contract between Carter and Associates and Wheeler Group was finalized and effective immediately. In the main clause, it clearly stated Hudson Design was removed from the permitting process and all documents would now be transferred to the new intermediary. Attached was a special note. Any personnel who participated in the unauthorized replacement of the regulatory control role will be subject to civil liability if the project incurs financial losses. Marcus Callahan had played a game he didn't understand, and now the rules were hitting back. As I was getting ready to leave the office, I found a flower box at the door. Inside was a handwritten card. "We sincerely apologize. Please reconsider. Please reconsider." Signed, Marcus Callahan. I placed the box on the windowsill. Outside, it had begun to drizzle. Not every mistake deserves total destruction, but some things once broken can't be fixed with petals and a late apology. The official agreement was signed at 10:34 a.m. on Monday in the conference room on the 18th floor of Wheeler Group's headquarters. Grant Wheeler sat across the glass table, flanked by two attorneys and a senior technical advisor. I brought the proposal that Miranda Clay had reviewed, line by line, with nothing overlooked. The contract was 12 pages long with 3 appendices. Aside from the $73,000 fee for the remainder of the Emerald Bay project, the key clause was in Section 9.2. Carter and Associates will be granted priority partnership in the role of legal advisor and compliance coordinator for all projects within the Wheeler Group ecosystem across Northern California for the next 2 years. I signed. Grant nodded. "Congratulations, Mr. Carter. I think we just cleared a pile of garbage off the table." One of the lawyers smiled. "Hudson Design still doesn't fully understand what just happened." "They don't need to," I said. "As long as the city knows who's signing the paperwork, the project won't stall." As soon as the contract went into effect, the Monterey City Planning Department received official notice of the partner change. All pending documents for Emerald Bay were re-verified in less than 4 days. By Friday, the city had approved Phase 3 for Zone A7, the very section that nearly caused Marcus and Nathan to erupt in a shouting match over a missing signature. That same afternoon, I received an email from Wheeler Group's legal office requesting a strategic meeting for 3 new projects in Mill Valley, Pacific Grove, and Santa Clara. Combined budget, nearly $140 million. Miranda called the moment she got the copy. "You're going to need more staff," she said. "You can't handle all this alone." I chuckled. "I'm thinking of hiring 2 senior assistants, maybe from the list of people Hudson laid off during last year's financial restructuring." Miranda laughed. "That's better than any lawsuit." The next morning, while preparing for a meeting with Wheeler's technical team, I got a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. "Work together again?" I didn't reply. An hour later, Nathan sent a long email. He said Marcus was under internal review and all new projects had frozen because no one on the team currently met the legal qualifications to continue the process. He admitted he used to think being energetic and good at communication was enough to replace someone who held the position for 7 years. "I was wrong," he wrote, "but I realized it too late." He attached a handwritten apology, scanned from his personal notebook. No plea, no request. Just a sincere message. I printed it, folded it, and placed it in my desk drawer. No need to respond right away. Some words are best kept as a reminder. That evening, Grant invited me to dinner at an Italian restaurant on Telegraph Hill. Our table overlooked the bay. The sky was clear, a light breeze filtering through the glass panels. "Benjamin," he said after ordering, "I've seen plenty of people get pushed aside. Most either fade or lash out and disappear. But you're different." "I'm not trying to win," I replied. "I just want to make sure I'm never stepped on again." Grant raised his wine glass. "Then, congratulations. Starting tomorrow, you're the only person I trust to pull my projects out of the bureaucratic mess local governments keep creating." We clinked glasses. While waiting for dessert, I received a message from my office staff. Hudson had just submitted formal notice to the city, withdrawing from all responsibilities related to Emerald Bay. They used the phrase staffing constraints and internal strategy changes to avoid admitting they were removed. I put my phone away. A breeze from the bay rustled the olive trees planted along the restaurant's walkway. That night, lying in my small apartment, I quietly opened Marcus's old email, the one with the termination notice titled, "Staff Reduction, Not Personal." I never deleted it. I never replied. I simply renamed the folder, "Expensive Mistakes." At exactly 8 o'clock a.m. Monday morning, a new memo was issued from Wheeler Group's official email to all contractors, partners, and government entities related to Emerald Bay. Subject line: Design Lead Change, Emerald Bay Project. The content was brief, but enough to send shockwaves through Northern California's real estate scene. Hudson Design was removed from the project for violating regulatory protocols and demonstrating poor coordination capabilities. Grant Wheeler didn't name individuals, but the attached statement made it clear. All current design documentation will be transferred to Hartman and Associates for review and execution. I received a call from Hartman's office less than 30 minutes later. They were proactive. "Mr. Carter, we just got the directive from Mr. Wheeler. He's asked that all design files be reviewed against the legal standards established by Carter and Associates. We're ready to coordinate. Can you schedule a meeting this week? I'll need scanned copies of the original plans to compare first. Then we can set the meeting. We'll send them today." No vague wording, no condescension, the complete opposite of what I experienced working with Hudson Design. That afternoon, I received an unexpected email from Marcus Callahan himself. This time, there were no excuses or attacks. Just 2 lines. "Grant has made it official. I hope you won't bury everything I once built." I didn't respond. History doesn't remember what someone built, it remembers how they ruined it. That evening, I sat in my home office reviewing every component of Emerald Bay, from wastewater systems to residential zoning plans. Every drawing, every seal had my touch since the very beginning, when the project was still in conceptual stages. Now, that entire process was under the direct coordination of Carter and Associates. As agreed, I was appointed as the lead legal coordinator for Wheeler Group's entire project portfolio over the next 2 years. Beyond Emerald Bay, they had 5 other developments queued up, from luxury housing in Petaluma to a commercial complex in Santa Rosa. The total estimated value, over $220 million. Wednesday morning, I walked into the first technical meeting with Hartman and Associates team. Also present were representatives from the city's building department and a new liaison from Wheeler Group, tasked with bridging design and investment teams. When I entered, everyone stood to shake my hand. "Mr. Carter," Hartman's technical director said, "we've reviewed all the files. Hudson left a mess, but at least they didn't corrupt the data." I replied, "Let's not blame those who are no longer in the room. Our job now is to get it right." The representative from Wheeler handed me a 40-page document. "These are the internal standards just released by our group, based largely on the compliance framework you proposed during your time with the city. We've decided to adopt Carter and Associates' system as our default." I nodded. Everything was heading in the right direction. That night, as I finalized the new personnel list for our coordination team, I received a message from Evan, my son. He sent me a link to an article in Bay Area Construction Weekly. The bold headline read, "Wheeler Group drops Hudson Design from Emerald Bay. A historic shift makes way for new power." In the article, I was described as the most influential regulatory coordinator in the Bay Area. One quote stood out. "This personnel change highlights the importance of putting the right person in the right role. Carter and Associates isn't just a consulting firm, they are a critical link in ensuring success in today's increasingly complex regulatory landscape." I turned off the screen, leaned back in my chair. Outside the window, a light rain fell. At that moment, one thought came to mind. A structure cannot stand if its foundation is built on arrogance. And Marcus was wrong to think someone like me would remain silent. Tuesday morning, I was invited to speak at a special panel on optimizing legal processes in urban development in San Jose. I had planned to decline, but when the organizers mentioned Wheeler Group was the primary sponsor and that my name was listed as the keynote speaker, I changed my mind. As I stepped on stage, I saw the front row filled with reps from major investment firms in the region, including 2 who once shook Marcus Callahan's hand like lifelong allies. I didn't open with charts or definitions. Instead, I told a story about a permit application that was delayed 6 months because of a single smudged stamp. The room laughed, not because it was funny, but because everyone in the industry had lived it. We operate in a system where tiny details can derail entire projects. When I finished, the applause roared like thunder. A journalist from California Developer Weekly approached me for a quick interview. 2 days later, the article went live across all major platforms with the headline, Benjamin Carter, the man resetting California's urban development standards. I hadn't anticipated the media response. 3 days later, another outlet dubbed me the Code Whisperer, the man who speaks the language of law to get projects through. It sounded dramatic, but in an era where dozens of developers were struggling with new federal regulations, that image made me more approachable. Carter and Associates quickly became a hot topic in professional circles. Within 8 weeks, we received partnership requests from 6 major developers, 3 county-level agencies, and 1 architecture university. I had to open a satellite office in Santa Clara and hire 4 new employees, but I didn't choose fresh grads. I looked for resumes that had once been discarded for being too old, not tech-savvy, or not a culture fit. Among them were Sheila, 52, former head of regulatory legal for a merged firm, and Robert, 56, who once oversaw industrial permit processing in South Fresno. None of them needed time to adapt. They just needed a place that didn't treat age as a liability. Meanwhile, Hudson Design began showing cracks they could no longer cover. After being dropped from Emerald Bay, they lost 2 more projects in Paso Robles and Redwood City. Investors grew wary once they realized Hudson no longer had a legal team capable of guaranteeing permit timelines. A report in Northern Build Report noted, 3 of Hudson's 5 strategic partners have shifted to working with Carter and Associates. A friend forwarded me an internal memo stating Marcus had been suspended to rebuild client trust. A few weeks later, word spread that he'd resigned. Jenna Blake, the one once hailed by Hudson as a symbol of innovation, was reassigned to social media management, no longer mentioned in any technical documents. The once creative and dynamic Star was now running the company's Instagram. When I heard that, I didn't laugh or gloat. I simply told my son, Evan, if you undervalue experience, you'll spend twice as long fixing what you overlooked. That evening, I accepted an invitation to speak at Stanford, where architecture and urban planning students asked about the industry's transformation. One young woman asked, "Do you think this is karma, seeing the person who sidelined you lose everything?" I shook my head. No. Karma is spiritual. This is just the natural consequence of an industry forgetting what matters most: expertise and patience. A chime sounded, signaling the end of the session. I stood, thanked the audience, and stepped off stage, applause echoing behind me. Not applause for a hero, just for someone who proved that getting removed from the table doesn't mean the game is over. Benjamin Carter was coldly fired after 7 years of dedication, replaced by an underqualified intern. But instead of reacting with anger, he quietly leveraged what he truly had: expertise, relationships, and a privately owned firm no one saw coming. From discarded to indispensable, he became a strategic partner to major corporations while Hudson Design slowly collapsed. Benjamin's story proves that when your worth is misjudged, silence, at the right time, can become the strongest counterattack. What do you think of Benjamin's choices and response? Was he too cold, or was it calculated wisdom? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful, real-life stories about family and resilience.